my friends, and welcome back to another episode of EggWars. Glad to have you back. Excuse me a moment, I'm gonna kind of perch my my Jumbotron moon boot up over here. Alright, there we go. Oh, it's kind of a little janky. Alright, there we go. I'm probably gonna end up moving it a couple more times. But anyway, glad to have you back. I haven't shouted out my three amigos, my trio of hombres in a minute, so shout out to my boy Arto. Shout out to my boy producer Chris. Shout out to the not-so Casanova. And shout out to all of you people, you lovely, beautiful, wonderful people for tuning in today. And I'm glad you could be here. As you may be able to see, you know what? I hope at least I look a little bit cleaner. I went through hell today. I crawled up, you know, if you don't know about me, alright, my house, we don't have bathroom, or, okay, I'm sorry, no, we don't have bathtubs, alright? We have bathrooms, obviously. You kind of need to have those. But we don't have bathtubs. We have basically these, like, shower capsules, like these, like, single, you know, like, shower stall sort of things that we got. So, it's a little bit difficult to, operate in there, you know. If I could just lay down in the bathtub and have my bad legs sticking out, you know, that'd be one thing. You know, pause. Anyway, but, you know, just kind of hanging in there and, you know, holding on to the shower bars and having my one leg kind of curled up and trying to fucking, you know, go and do everything and then kind of hop out of the shower, and it was just a lot. It was a process, but I did it all on my own, and I'm fresher than yesterday. I'm kind of clean. I still worked up a little bit of a sweat today, you know, crutching up and down stairs is a thing. You know, I still went out a little bit today, ran a couple errands, so it was like, I was still getting a workout in. I feel like, you know, I don't know. It's like I'm sitting around, I'm laying around, I'm like, God, I was already such a fat ass, you know what I mean? I'm already such a fat piece of shit, and now I'm just getting even fatter, you know, just laying around on my ass. But when I'm up and I'm crutching around, it's like I'm feeling, you know, I'm feeling like I'm getting a little bit of exercise in, so that's all pretty good. Alright, but before I go any further today, let's go ahead and crack that sip. You know, I cracked the sip yesterday, and it was a little bit like, it was a little off for some reason. Now, let's see, maybe today, Maybe it was just all in my head. Let's see. We're gonna get the ASMR sip cracking as per the usual. All right. I don't know if you noticed that. Compared to yesterday, the hiss on that was not quite as long. That was a pretty quick hiss. So maybe that one yesterday, maybe there was something rank about it. Let's find out. It still tastes a little weird. I don't know, it might just be my meds. I'm thinking we're having a little medication side effect here. I think it makes Rockstar yellow recovery drink. Now there's a Rockstar Pure Zero out there that's the lemonade kind. And that's what it's tasting like to me. So it could be maybe a little something weird, or maybe this, I bought these all together. I got another one right here. I got another one here too for tomorrow. So maybe these ones just got mislabeled. Maybe this is supposed to, because I've had the Pure Zero lemonade. That's how this tastes. It's a different taste compared to the non-carbonated Rockstar Recovery lemonade. They're both lemonades, but they both taste different. So maybe they just maybe the Pure Zero lemonade, it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe they put the formula in here. I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't kept up on the news with the Rockstars enough. I don't know. It's wild, but we're gonna have to keep on going out from here. I've drank enough of this shit to know what it tastes like. And it's not tasting usual, but whatever. It's whatever. I'm not tripping on it. Still provides the beneficial effects that I like for my needs. Anyway, so I'm clean today, but enough about all that. I don't think I have anything else to put forward. The video topic I wanted to talk about today. I swear, I'm very, very certain, I feel at least very certain that I have talked about this topic in the past before. I don't know if it was maybe on a stream. It might have been, I want to say there was like a legit video about it, but I can't place it. So we're going to talk about it again today, at least for sure it hasn't been in an EggWars video. So that's all that really matters right now, I guess. You know, everything, we might hit a couple more topics in EggWars that maybe have come up before. It's whatever. So we're going to be talking about, somebody had mentioned, and I think it was a comment on yesterday's video, they said, listen, we've heard you talk about, in the past, you have talked about, you know, I was talking about, oh, you know, how I worked in soup kitchens and things like that. Basically things I had when I was younger and in school. I did work with the church. You know, I did mission trips with the church where I was doing charity work. in a few different big cities across the country, and even some smaller ones too. And so I thought maybe I'd talk a little bit about that, and then maybe talk a little bit about my faith as well, because that's something I don't really have talked about in a video, especially. I know it's definitely come up on a stream a couple times. I want to say I think that one time, because obviously I've done 24-hour streams, I've completed 24-hour streams now, but I think there was that one time when my first time I was really trying to do a 24-hour stream. We did like 21, 22 hours or whatever. I think at one point during that, somebody started arguing with me about religion, and it really pissed me off a lot because I just really wasn't in the mood. We were like 15, 16 hours down on the stream, and I was kind of like, I was sort of just like, I wasn't even feeling best at the time. But somebody just got into, and I think if I'm remembering this correctly, somebody got into an argument with me about religion and shit, and I just got pissed off. Because, for the record, yes, I am a Christian. But let's just go ahead and dial it back here. So, as far as my faith goes, I was baptized, confirmed, all that stuff in the Lutheran church. I was raised Lutheran, and I'm quite happy with being Lutheran. There was a point in time, this was just a few years ago, but when I first started getting into pole, started getting red-pilled about different things like that, I started to kind of have a bit of a taste for like the Eastern Orthodoxy, because there was all these threads all the time about religion and all this different stuff. There was discussions going on, and people would be like, Eastern Orthodoxy is the purest, it's the most righteous. All the degenerates, they can't stand it. Brother Nathaniel, he left the degenerate lifestyle behind, and now he's Eastern Orthodox, and it's just the best, and that's what everybody should be. And so I steeped in that a little bit at the time, but that wasn't what I came up in. But I kind of dabbled in it a little bit at the time, because that was what the word was. It was like, that's the way you got to go. It's the strongest potency. But then, of course, obviously, coming up as Lutheran, I started, there was things posted on Poll about Martin Luther, and they're like, oh, Martin Luther, he's fucking red pill, dude, he's fucking based. And, he had certain publications that he had put out, like The Jews and Their Lies, and he had, basically been against certain things that were going on in the Catholic Church. And so when I did my research into Martin Luther, the Catholics, they think anything Protestant is like the worst, it's awful, and it's just awful. But I mean, even now, if I was Catholic and seeing some of the shit that the Pope is doing these days, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I would probably be needing a new strain, a new flavor, a new path or something anyway. Cause I mean, obviously the forgiveness and everything's good, but I mean, there's just like, he's getting too nitpicky with political shit. He's obviously got a fucking agenda. So I mean, if I was like, I wouldn't be very happy if I was a Catholic, but I'm quite happy with where I'm at. But so anyways, I always, I'd grown up, I always went to church. I went to like some of the church camps, like the summer camps, youth camps. And, that was always a good time. I always had a good time doing that kind of stuff. It was always, I always enjoyed the message. It was kind of a fun thing, because there was activities, and there was all, fun kid stuff that I might not have always done. They had all the fundraising programs you could ever need to raise all the money for you to go. So there was kids that were poor, kids that had money, and everything in between that were going on these trips, and you could go and you could play. They had, it was just fun times, and always a good message of, just positive, God is good and everything's good. And it just, it was a good thing. And so, I always there was a lot of kids who I went to church with that, we started going to like Sunday school when we were little kids. And by the time, we were in junior high or whatever else, like before confirmation, I guess. Cause that confirmation, there was, they would usually show up for that if they were like in the church. But I mean, a lot of times, like we would have, I remember having days where there was Sunday school classes. And, it was always, enjoyable. I mean, I didn't always want to get up and go. I mean, I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure there was probably times that I didn't get up and go. But, it was always an enjoyable thing. There was always good lessons to be learned. It was never bad. I always getting dressed up in a nice, little outfit, putting on my dress shoes and stuff. It was always enjoyable to go, even if I didn't want to go. I probably enjoyed it more than going to actual school for the most part. Because it was just going for like an hour or whatever, however long it was, 45 minutes, whatever it was. So then in confirmation, I enjoyed confirmation quite a bit. It was like everybody that had kind of filtered out of Sunday school day kind of got reeled back in for confirmation. So I was kind of getting to know a lot of people my age. That was cool, because you had the same thing. You had some of the guys who were, more misfits. Some of the guys were more like the regular guys, but everybody was at the church, so we all kind of came together. We would have, we'd go to like our group leaders' house or whatever, and we're all hanging out and chilling and stuff like that, and it was all cool. It was all good. Everything was good. So, I mean, that was all great. But, let's see, so I think that was in 7th grade, I believe it was, when I got confirmed, if I remember correctly, which I might be wrong. But then I think in 8th grade, they started having, they had these things when I was in junior high where it was basically like Wednesday evenings, I believe it was. They would have like something to get young people in. I think it was like a junior high age event where you would go in and you would like pay your $5 or whatever to get in, and they would order pizza, and there was just kind of cool, fun stuff going on. It was kind of a cool thing. It was like a cool, it was in the middle of the week, so it was like, a little something kind of cool, social to take you off, take a little edge off the school week, so, something that was kind of cool and interesting, so that was cool. At the same time as that, I remember, there was a guy who I went to school with, who I was friends with, who, I would go and do my church stuff, and he had never really been to church, he wasn't really into it, but they kind of had this event to kind of get people interested in church, which I think this might have been the only time this guy ever went to church. Which, I don't like to try and push things on anybody anyway, but they had this thing where it was basically like, if you go to this church, hey, you can bring a friend, we're gonna have fucking like, it was a huge fucking LAN party is what it was, and we had, it was Halo, whatever, I think Halo 3 was out at the time. It was like right around the Halo 3 release, so maybe I was like 8th or 9th grade. So, I'm pretty sure it was Halo 3 if I remember right. But it was this huge LAN party, and they had pizza, and they had energy drinks and shit, and it was awesome, it was kick-ass, and we had like fucking like, I can't remember how many TVs, there was like 4 big screen TVs or something like that, or maybe like 6 big screen TVs or whatever. There was quite a few people there, and it was a lot of people playing, and it was just a blast. It was a lot of fun, so that was cool. And it kind of gave, you a little cred, because, this was already kind of this time, when you're talking about religion and stuff, everybody is like all, everybody was always very, very critical. If you're a religious person, you have religious beliefs, they were very, very critical of you, even in junior high, high school, or starting high school, that age, people were very critical of you, because they were just like, oh man, this was like fucking, I think Reddit was around at this time, but that wasn't like, it wasn't normal, like Redditors were not normal. Even when I was graduating high school, like, only like a few people were even like Redditors. Nowadays, I'm sure it's awful, but, the late 2000s, like Reddit was just kind of becoming a thing, like people were aware of, like as I was graduating high school. But they were basically like proto-Redditors, they were just like, you're Sky Daddy, oh, how can you believe in that? I believe in science, all that shit. So, but, to be fair, I was like, okay, I wanted to pursue a STEM, science, technology, electronics, engineering, math, sort of thing when I was that age. So I was like, I was all about science. Like, I liked to read about shit. I like to do math. I like to do all that stuff. So I kind of fell back on the faith a little bit so openly, because I was a little bit, self-conscious about it. So anyways, when I was a freshman in high school then in 2007, I got put onto the mission trips that they were doing, which you had to be a high schooler to do it, and then what they would do is that they had like, obviously you had like the church official who was leading these mission trip groups, but then like you had the what's the thing I'm thinking of? Chaperone, yeah, it's chaperone. I was like, there's something, I was thinking like, what's that person that goes to prom? But chaperone. And the chaperones they would have would usually be college students who were, I think they picked somebody who was like I think they were like college juniors or college seniors. I think that was like their requirement. They wouldn't just take somebody who was like just out of high school. They wanted to like have like a little bit of an age gap there, so there wasn't quite as much wild stuff going on. Not quite as much of a likelihood to like, have like parties and shit going on unannounced, that sort of thing. So that was, I got in, and in 2007, the first one we went into was, a mission trip to Chicago. So I remember this pretty well. I had known the people that were in my church that were my age, you know, I had known them from church activities that we had gone to, confirmation and that sort of thing. And so there hadn't, you know, it wasn't everybody who I'd gone, because not everybody was interested in doing this. But I had, you know, there was a fair amount of people my age. I think there was at least probably like 3 or 4 more other than me. But there was also people, the main group that was there was all older people who had gone on these mission trips already before, because they usually did one every year, I'm pretty sure. I think, yeah, cause I did, yeah, cause I went, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they did one every year, if I recall correctly. Or at least, you know, close to that. So there was older people and all these people who I didn't really know. So I kind of came into this mission trip, and I came into this, and I was, you know, pretty awkward. You know, I was pretty antisocial about it, and I get this a lot. This is like something I've always been told. Where, like, if I meet somebody for the first time, or if I'm introduced to a social situation, social interaction for, like, the first time, you know, I'll be pretty quiet, pretty, you know, sort of, taking my steps back a little bit and kind of just taking a little bit of time to sort of, you know, feel where I'm going to fit in this social group. So it was kind of like that at first. I had just, excuse me. I was really into like the deep south music at the time, like the DJ Screw music and that sort of thing. So I was really on that kick at the time. And so I had just burned a mixtape of some of my favorite DJ Screw music. And, I had brought, I can't remember what the hell, I had brought the CD by itself for whatever reason. I don't remember why. I thought like maybe I would just like end up playing it on like a boombox somewhere. I don't know what the hell I was even thinking, honestly. I really don't. But like I said, I was pretty awkward. I was just kind of an awkward, weird dude, but I came into it. And then I ended up like, because we took these buses to Chicago, and I remember we stopped at like some kind of gas station or something on the way there, and they actually had a fucking Walkman CD player there, and it was actually only $10 or some shit like that. It was like the real like Walmart fucking price. So I was like, hell yeah, fuck it, dude. So I bought this and it had batteries with it and stuff, and it had a little, you know, headset with it and everything. I mean, I fucking lucked out, honestly, looking back on it. But so we're down there, and I'm just like, I'm playing my fucking music, and I'm just like, you know, jamming like, do 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 do. If it ain't screwed up, turn it down. And so I'm chilling and vibing on this shit. People think I'm like this fucking weirdo, like school shooter looking motherfucker, of course. And, you know, I don't remember how it all happened, but basically like some guy was like, oh, let me listen to it. What do you listen to? And I played it, and the dude's like, whoa, man, this is crazy, man. This is like some gangster stuff, dude. Whoa. And then I basically started reciting some of the lyrics, you know, at the time of what was on that CD, and people thought I was like the most cool gangster dude, oh my god. But we went around, and as far as like the actual mission work was concerned, we went, and I've mentioned this before, you know, we went and we worked at a couple different soup kitchens in Chicago, which was mostly, like I mentioned the other day about the hobos and stuff. It wasn't like really a lot of like, you know, drug addict bums and stuff like that. You know, usually that wasn't the case. Like when I was working there in Chicago, there was a lot of families, you know, that just needed that extra meal to make ends meet. You know, there's families that were living in shelters, you know what I mean, and different things like that. So that's where we were at there. We went, and there were children they went to this school. I mean, like, even where we were staying at, you know what I mean? Like, we were staying in this church, but it was like fucking like gated off. Like you would drive in this parking lot, and there was like a fucking gate, and like the gate would open, and like the bus would come in, and the gate would close. So there was like, it was basically like this inner part kind of surrounded, because there was like, you could hear shootings and shit going on like around, you know, you could just hear it. Like if you were outside after dark, it was like, you would just fucking hear gunshots going off. It was not good. So we were in a pretty tight location, but there was one time, it was two different days. We went, and there was this little school of these kids it was like in a gang type situation, neighborhood, whatever. So like, you know, basically, it was like no photography allowed, you know, like everybody fucking would get like patted down and shit. But we went, and we basically like had like story time with these kids. We're telling them, you know, God is good, and, you know, doing a little story time with these kids. And then another day we took these kids on a fucking field trip to this water park, and that was a lot of fun. It was all a lot of fun. It was just, you know, it was pretty good. It was pretty cool. You know, and then we had other time, you know, there was times where we were just kind of going around and doing some fun stuff by ourselves too. You know, it was usually pretty constructive activities, that were planned for us and everything, so it wasn't too wild and crazy, being a bunch of high school kids and all, but it was still a great time. And then, the end of this story here, because I know I've mentioned this at some point before. Basically, this mission trip ended. I got friends with a lot of seniors that were, a lot of high school seniors were there, and and I was still on fucking MySpace at the time, because this was 2007. Facebook wasn't big yet, so we were still like all on MySpace, and I added all these people on MySpace that I could find. And I thought we were all gonna be like good friends and stuff, but I was like super autistic, and I fucking like took a bunch of our pictures that we had from this excursion, and I made them like super fucking, I was way ahead of my time with a lot of like autistic memeing. So basically, like, I went and just imagine how you see shit today, like on Twitter, where there's shit that's like distorted and stuff like that, and that's like the meme is like, how something's distorted, whatever. So I was basically taking these pictures and just kind of distorting them and discoloring them in ways I thought was really funny. And I fucking like posted them on my MySpace, and then like everybody who I had friended, like they all fucking like blocked me. And the one guy had like left a comment, he's like, dude, you're fucking messed up in the head, dude, you're fucking sick. And then everybody deleted me and blocked me, so that wasn't very much fun. But I want to say this too before I go on, so at this time, because this was the first mission trip I was on, and the thing is like, at the time, I would still say I sort of had like an atheistic morality about me, to where I was like, I just couldn't put myself to believe in a higher power, because I was so entrenched in like, well, all this science and math and everything makes so much sense. I'm not just going to be like, no, science and math is blasphemy. It's all the Lord. That's the way I saw it, was like this totally ignorant way. That's how I perceived it. So I was like, no, I'm gonna, I didn't know at the time, like, a lot of the first universities ever made, some of these first schools, years and years and years ago were, offshoots of, religious-based institutions and so on. But at the time, so I'm thinking to myself, like, I never wanted to be seen as like, some kind of like, crazy conservative redneck or whatever. So I was like, but at the same time, it was like, what? Even so, doing these acts where I'm helping people, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm doing something with my life that's a productive, helpful sort of thing. So I didn't really try and conflate it. I didn't really try and, get it all screwed up. So then another trip I went on was to New Orleans. Now this was, it had been, a few years since Hurricane Katrina. But, they still had everything wasn't perfect yet, Everything was not perfect by a long shot. And so we went to New Orleans, and this was kind of a bigger meetup. And actually, there was somebody who, somebody that's been on my streams or something. I remember, because I brought this up at one point before, I think during Streamus maybe. Maybe that's where this all kind of was spoken about originally. And somebody had said that they had gone to that they had also been in New Orleans at this, on this mission trip the same time I had been. So that was kind of cool, I guess. But so we were down there, and this one was not quite as hands-on, I would say, as the Chicago one. Chicago one, was like, we're going through like motherfucking gangland, they're like, don't look out the window, somebody might shoot you, that sort of stuff. Like people, it was a little bit tense. In New Orleans, we kind of had a couple of situations, I remember then too, because you had homeless people wandering around. I remember, there was people sleeping, fucking on cardboard on the ground and shit. And it was kind of still kind of wild for somebody like me who's not really from the city, you know what I mean? But it was at the same time, I think, was this the one where maybe, even with like the helping people, it was more hands off, I think, than the Chicago trip was. I'm trying to remember exactly, how it went. I think this might have been the one where we were, there was like fruit and vegetable donations that were coming through. Oh no, actually, I remember another thing now. But anyways, first thing, like fruit and vegetable donations were coming through. And we had to basically take these donations, because not all of them that were coming through were good. Like, there was some ones that were rotting and stuff, so we basically had to go through, kind of suit up, and have our, like, latex gloves and, like, our fucking, like, sterile outfits and shit, and we're just, like, kind of going through. I remember seeing some fucking nasty shit, like some nasty fruits and vegetables and stuff that were coming through. Fantastic. The donation of these items were fantastic. The produce donation was all great, for a great cause. But at the same time, it was just like, it was so gross. Like, it's been years, and like, I've never seen something like, you think it's like, you think you're picking up fucking broccoli and it's supposed to be like an orange, you know what I mean? Because it's fucking just a green fucking flower, and you're like, you reach down to grab it and your fucking fingers just goes like right through it, and you're like, ah! You have like your fucking mask on, so like if there's fucking spores, nothing's gonna get through. That was pretty gross. But actually, this was, I think, what I mentioned on Streamus or whatever before that reminded the guy who I had talked to, that he reminded him that he did this, because another thing that happened was we were going through, I can't even remember the fucking pretense of this shit or what the hell it was, but we were having to go door to door in fucking New Orleans of all places. This was no goddamn ritzy neighborhood either. This was like the hood. We're having to go door to door in New Orleans. And I can't remember what the hell I can't remember what the fuck it even was. It was like signing people up for something, or it was like polling people on their beliefs or some shit. I can't even fucking remember exactly what it was specifically. All I know is I'm lucky that nothing bad happened to any of us, because we were in the fucking hood, but like what happened that I can recall was that, basically we would knock on a door, the good couple memorable parts of this that I recall, knocking on a door and having like an 80-year-old, 5-foot-tall black woman open the door and be like, "Oh, hello there, kids. How you doing?" And then we're like, hey, we're here about God and whatever else. And then she'd be like, oh my heavens, that's so sweet. Y'all need to come in. I made some cookies. I made some sweet tea. Come on in now. And whatever else, that's basically like the best parts, because I can remember we were just like sitting in there. There was one lady who, this is all kind of it's been like almost 10 years now probably, so it's kind of pieces now, but I remember, I think I was very grateful for her, because we were out in the fucking hot sun walking around. She takes us in, she basically gives us like some fucking water, sweet tea or whatever, and her house is air conditioned, and she just wants to talk and talk and talk and talk, and the guy, whoever it was that was chaperoning us for this particular part, was like, either he was too beta, or he just was on the same page as like me, or maybe some other people there, that we didn't want to have to keep fucking walking around in the hot sun and just doing all that. We'd rather have the time slot fill up of having some lady just, okay, she's talking, hey lady, keep on talking, we got another half hour to kill. Well, we can't just, walk out on you, you're being so hospitable, so let's sit here and keep doing this shit. So then that's kind of how it went down. And, but once again, it was a great time, there had been, at this point, because there was another one we had went on before this that was a little bit less memorable. We were in, I think, Wichita. We did one in Wichita, or I did. I can't remember if what even this was exactly for. Very, very, not a whole lot of memories about this one that I can think of. But we went to Wichita, I believe it was, and there was some school or something, and we helped, build them a fucking, what was it, they had, a shed of some kind. They had to have, some shed, and they wanted to, put something in it. I can't remember what the hell it is, but we helped them build something, basically. It was kind of like a home, Habitats for Humanity sort of goddamn thing, except for some school on a religious grant or whatever it was. So we did that for them, and we painted it and stuff, so that was kind of cool. But, over these few trips, there had been some people, like I said, who were my age and who I had, we'd been on all these trips together, so we were starting to kind of get more friendly with each other. And, that was cool, because that was we were kind of tight in that regard. And then, what was it? Cause I didn't really keep up with any of these people after high school, to be honest. I really didn't. Pretty much nobody who I graduated with, unless they were working the same kind of shitty minimum wage jobs as me and I happened to run into them every now and then, I really didn't keep up with any of these people. They probably don't even know who I am or remember who I am or any of that shit at this point. They probably got kids and shit at this point anyway. But I just remember, because at least up till that point, we still have these church events occasionally. There'd be a church picnic or whatever it was going on, where we'd meet up, and then, these people would be there, and it'd be kind of cool to have people who I'd been through some of this stuff with, and been around the country with, and done work with, whether it was physical or whatever it was, charity work that we had done together. You kind of had some bonds built there, and it was really nice, it was really cool, and everything was so good, everything was always so pleasant, It was always just such a pleasant experience, just to be so, to have done this good work. And you could look at it from a different angle if you want to. I'm sure there's people out there who are probably going to look at that and be like, oh, yeah, you went and fed people in Chicago, and you went and you fucking, you took them to the water park, and you did all the shit for them, and then, 5 years later, they're all dead because they all shot each other in a goddamn gang war. You can look at it that way. I'm not going to say, that's not a totally crazy point of view, but it just makes you feel good, I don't like to be all emotional based about everything. I'm typically a logic over emotion kind of person. But when you're doing good, you're helping your fellow man, you know, and you're doing it, and you just, everybody's feeling good, and we're all like, you know, God is good. There's just such a positive energy going around all over the place. It's like, it's hard to look at it in a negative way, you know what I mean? Everything just feels so good. But basically, where it kind of ended up going for me was, I was still, you know, I've been to some church events and such in the last, you know, years now, since the last, like, real mission trip I was on. I think one time I got asked to be a chaperone for a mission trip at one point, but I didn't work out because I don't know if whatever the case was, it wasn't working out. But the thing for me is that, a couple things. I mean, really, at one point, you know, probably about 5-ish years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was taking my real heavy red pill, I kind of got radicalized a little bit into like some really, really, really strong Christian beliefs, like really like, you know, like Deus Vult type shit. So on that account, I had a little bit of a disagreement on certain topics in regards to where I was seeing a church where they were being a little more passionate, a little more accepting, and I was kind of more like, you know, Deus Vult, degenerates be purged, heretics are going to be burned at the stake, and that sort of shit. So we had a little bit of viewpoint differences, unfortunately, so that was kind of just, you know, not the best. And then, I think probably, well, I tried to go, there was, well, no, I did go to it. There was a thing a few years ago, cause I've been working at, it was right after I was quitting working at this grocery store that I was working at the time, cause, this lady who I had been active in my church and who I'd known for many years, she would often come in here and talk to me about stuff, and she's like, oh, you gotta, you know, we have all these new programs, you should really come check out these programs we're working on, you know, these meetings and things. Okay. So it was right as I was quitting, because I was like, well, I know I'm not going to really see her again, because I don't really see her, I'm not going to see her at my new job, so I might as well just say, okay, let's see what's going on, we'll see what's good. So I ended up going to this thing, and it was kind of designed for people my age at the time, so I was like 22, right? Yeah, so I was like 22. But I go, you know, and I'm meeting up, and we have like a little cookout, and there's, you know, fruit and chips and hot dogs on a grill, or we're at somebody's house and hanging out on their porch or whatever, and everybody's kind of chilling and talking good stuff. And, for one, I do recall that I think I said some stuff that was maybe a little bit strong on the red pill scale. Maybe I was showing my power level up a little bit about some things people were talking about, because I was just like, you know, everybody's kind of feeling pretty moderate, and I'm just like saying maybe a couple things that were a little bit off the wall and a little bit maybe extreme in the sort of like, you know, Christian identity sense, because I was subscribing to some Christian identity beliefs at the time. And, but I think a major part of it too was, you know, this was before all the 4chan stuff, so I had like very, 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 very minimal social interaction on a regular basis. And a lot of these people, you know, they were my age or a little bit older, but most of them had serious relationships. You know, maybe they had a child or they were expecting, engaged, married, whatever. They were out of college, you know, they were doing stuff with their lives, and I had just, you know, quit my job at the fucking grocery store to go work at the gas station instead. And so it was like, there was just you could feel there was definitely, we were not all on the same wavelengths. Like, everybody was talking about, oh, you know, when my kid's born, this, and when my first year wedding anniversary, this, and this, and this, and this. And so I was kind of just like, you know, not good with, in relationship terms, you know what I mean? Like, that just wasn't my thing, and I, you know, and this was, I wasn't really trying to hear all that to be, like, you know, I'll say it. I was maybe a little envious. I was maybe a little bit unhappy with where I was in life compared to these other people. And so, like, I just kind of didn't like that. I didn't like, we weren't really seeing a lot of the same issues the same way. And so I did that. And I said, you know what? I have a lot of belief in my Christian faith, in my Christian morals. That's all very good. But I'm going to kind of do it on my terms. I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to keep the faith, but it's going to be in me, you know what I mean? And I'm going to speak out about things I like to speak out about. And so, you know, I've talked about stuff. I don't ever try to hold my tongue. If I some belief that I have, I put it out there. I say what I say, and that's just kind of what it is. So, and that was kind of the last real interaction I had with, people in my church, unfortunately. I mean, I'd like to go back sometime, but maybe I'm a little more well-rounded now than I was a few years ago. You know, maybe some people would believe that. But, anyway, I think that's where we'll cut it off today. It's running a little bit long. Hopefully it won't split into 3 videos. But in any case, thank you all so much again for tuning in to another episode of Egg Wars. Glad you could all make it, and we will see you next time.